Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and a very warm welcome to Saturday's edition of the DC Universe Daily. I had already recorded a pre-recorded editorial video for today's DC Universe Daily. I went on YouTube and I noticed a Ping Pong Flicks Chris Wong Svensson video reacting to the news that James Gunn was going to direct Superman Legacy. Upon viewing this video, Chris was reading out a portion of the thread where James confirms he's directing Superman Legacy. I had missed a very, very serious, concerning portion of this thread. It read as followed. It said that he was very hesitant in directing Superman Legacy, that Peter Safran was pressuring him to commit to directing the movie. It's the next portion of this thread which really concerns me as a Superman fan. He said, just because you write a script, it doesn't mean you feel it in your bones. There it is, in black and white. James Gunn didn't want to direct Superman Legacy. John Morning Mick. Good morning, John. He confirms he didn't want to direct Superman Legacy. Scott Edwards, what's up? Good morning. He confirms he doesn't want to direct Superman Legacy. He confirmed he was hesitant in directing Superman Legacy, that just because he wrote the script, he doesn't feel it in his bones. We know that James is not a Superman or a Batman man. We know he likes breathing life into smaller characters and groups of characters. Already, he's doing a Creature Commandos animated series. That is a group, right? He's doing The Authority, another group comic book story. He knows his strengths. I know his strengths. And you, the fans, know his strengths. Now, I've been very, very direct and honest about my concerns of James Gunn directing Superman Legacy, a Superman movie. I have a lot of misgivings about this creative doing Superman. And he admits that he doesn't feel it in his bones. Hunter Iggy, Movie TV Mad, what's up? Scott Edwards, can't stay long. Excited for James Gunn directing Superman Legacy. You've been enjoying Mandalorian Season 3, I have. And did you ever watch Book of Boba Fett finale? Apologies, Scott, I never did. I still will. We will get into all of that, but here we're talking about DC and something that concerns me. I am, I suppose, a devout Superman fan. I don't just love the character. I believe in this character. This is the last chance to make a successful Superman movie in my lifetime. I hope I live to see Superman Legacy. If Superman Legacy even ever comes to be. This is Warner Brothers, don't forget. Scott Edwards, seeing Shazam 2 today. Let me know. At me on Twitter or comment here. Wherever you are, let me know what you thought of that movie. I thought it was solid. I enjoyed it while I was watching it. End of story. You won't remember it in 6 months, and I certainly won't remember it in 6 months. Welcome to modern day entertainment. So this thread, where he says he didn't feel it in his bones, that he doesn't feel Superman in his bones, absolutely concerns me. I'm already concerned that this guy doesn't have the ability in his locker to direct a Superman movie. You see, James is very famous for his honesty, talking too much and over-elaborating. And he's over-elaborated here. He has confirmed that he was hesitant in directing Superman Legacy, that Peter Safran was pressuring him in directing Superman Legacy. So while he's been thinking about directing Superman Legacy or being concerned about directing Superman Legacy, what was he doing? I think it's pretty clear the studio and he were trying to find a director. And it's clear that nobody wanted to direct the film in the way that he, James Gunn, wanted to do it. And there is a huge issue for me with that. His admittance that he doesn't feel Superman in his bones, that he didn't feel it in his bones enough to want to spend 2 years of his life directing a mammoth of a movie. He knows this is beyond him. He's not a Superman fan. He says he's excited about the script and he's looking forward to doing it. Even the way the Fred starts off, yeah, I'm directing Superman Legacy. And admitting he doesn't feel it in his bones, let me tell you who did feel Superman in their bones. Dick Donner, Alfred Gough and Miles Miller. Zack Snyder felt Superman in his bones when he directed Man of Steel. He still would love to do a Man of Steel 2. Zack Snyder feels it in his bones. And just because that film didn't make the money the studio wanted, that not everybody liked it. Look, Zack Snyder, Goya, and Nolan gave us a Superman in a realistic world, a realistic version of Superman. That didn't work out for everyone. And there's obvious reasons for that. But it doesn't mean they got Superman wrong. They wanted to get Superman to earn the right to become Superman. And there's nothing wrong with that. And it's nothing wrong with it if you didn't like it. But it doesn't mean they got it wrong. Scott Edwards, what do you think Snyder's announcement at the end of April is? I think that he's catalogued 2 days, my friend. I think he's doing SnyderCon 2, which is basically Comic-Con, but with Zack Snyder. So I think there's a lot of things to say. It's interesting that he's selling this event as, using DC and his portion of the DC universe rather than using Rebel Moon. Clearly, Zack isn't done. He's also going to be on the Snyder Queens. Not the Snyder Queens. Is it the Snyder Queens? Or whatever they're called anyway. Those Queens Guilds, right? They've got him on a YouTube Live. I think today, later on today or tomorrow. Clearly, Zack has something to say. And to answer your question, Scott, I'm thoroughly excited. A portion of my fandom was the Snyderverse. I love the Snyderverse. I would love to see more of the Snyderverse. And Zack Snyder does feel Superman in his bones, but they won't allow him to finish his vision. So I'm utterly concerned with James Gunn hesitantly agreeing to direct Superman Legacy. It's there in black and white. He admits it. Scott Edwards, since we know Diana is in Shazam 2, they better keep Batman in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. I don't know what's going on there with Batman. I have my doubts that there will be any Batman in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. He's probably been cut, my friend. I did have the privilege of watching the Michael Keaton cameo in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. And as I said months ago when I spoke about this, no spoilers, it was fucking good. And it's a shame we won't be getting it. Also, Batfleck would have been even better. It's a shame we won't be getting it. They've changed their minds. They've gone in different directions. They've postponed movies. It's all a bit of a muddle, to say the least. Now, when James Gunn announced that him and Peter Safran will be running DC, we thought things would be a lot more, let's say, done in a professional way. But there's a lot of red flags here, everyone. He constantly is arguing with Snyderverse stands. You shouldn't be getting down in the mud. But that doesn't bother me as much as a director saying, even when you write a script, it doesn't mean you feel it in your bones. It doesn't mean you want to commit 2 years of your life to it. That doesn't sound like someone who wants to direct a Superman movie. Make no mistake, James Gunn has been pressured into directing a Superman movie. And this concerns me to my core. And don't worry, we'll be talking about Tom Cruise and the Flash movie very, very shortly. As I say, I already recorded an episode of today's DC Universe Daily. I've deleted it now because I found out about this portion of James Gunn's Fred when he confirmed he was directing Superman Legacy. I had missed this portion. On the internet, as usual, is questioning this portion. His hesitancy to direct the Superman movie, being pressured to direct a Superman movie. And nobody's questioning this. As usual, people on the internet, huge YouTube platforms, don't want to damage their success. They don't want to talk about it. But I don't have a success. I'm not scared of anybody. And I will say it, that this, my friends, is a huge red flag. The fact that he was hesitant, he had to be pressured to direct this movie, that he doesn't feel it in his bones, right? Why would anyone go out publicly and say, just because you write a script, it doesn't mean you feel it in your bones? We know what that means. He's telling us what that means. He's telling us he didn't want to direct Superman Legacy. But even worse, he's literally telling us he didn't want to do it. He had no choice but to direct this movie. This is concerning. This is worse than what happened with the DCEU in the Snyderverse, because Snyder's a man who feels DC in his bones and he's not allowed to finish his arc. James Gunn doesn't want to make a Superman movie. He doesn't feel Superman in his bones and he's directing a Superman movie. This is absolutely outrageous. Outrageous. It's there in black and white. Go and check it out for yourselves. It's an issue. It's a problem. Am I the only one who sees this? This is Superman. This is important. If Superman doesn't work, if Superman Legacy doesn't work because his heart really wasn't in it, because he doesn't have the capabilities of making a great Superman movie, we will not be able to see Superman again on film in our lifetimes. And that matters. Superman matters. It does to me anyway. I'm a 50-year-old man. I'll never get to see another Superman film again. Never. And that matters. We can all wave the shield flags and say, best thing ever, man. But this is Superman. This is Superman. He's not the Guardians. This is not the Suicide Squad. It's freaking Superman. And he must be made right. And if someone is not committed to doing that, that's a huge problem to me. And I'm stunned by that portion of the thread where he confirms he's directing Superman Legacy. I am shocked to my core. I really am. This should have been a pre-recorded video today, but because I discovered this portion of the thread and I was late, I would have been late uploading it. It would have taken me all day to upload it. I decided to go live. I'm happy for the interactions, but I didn't come on here. Like, that wasn't my main focus. I just wanted to get the video out because I like doing a daily video. I enjoy doing them. But this is concerning as a Superman fan, utterly concerning as a Superman fan, that he says he didn't feel it in his bones. Just because you write a script doesn't mean you feel it in your bones. And that's okay. There's many people who have written episodes of the greatest TV shows that don't feel those characters in their bones. Do you think the hundreds of people who directed Smallville episodes felt Smallville in their bones, or 24, whatever? No, of course not. But that's okay. This is the man running DC Universe. You can't pick and choose, right? He's clearly being pressured by Zaslav to launch with Superman. He clearly isn't into Superman. Superman isn't his thing. Clearly, if it was up to him, he wouldn't be launching with a Superman movie. He clearly doesn't agree with this decision. Scott Edwards, been watching Flash Season 9. No, I haven't, and I'm getting very bad reports. The latest episode was hated by most people. What did you think of it? Let me know, Scotty. So, yeah, as a Superman fan, I can't sit here. And look, he may make the greatest Superman film ever. He may not. I don't know that. I don't know what he's going to give us. But I am stunned by Peter Safran and David Zaslav that they don't see anything wrong with someone who was refusing to commit to directing a Superman movie. And they're happy to go with this. Scott Edwards, solid enough. Will you at least watch the finale? Maybe, my friend. It's not something I'm that excited about watching. I dropped Arrowverse a long time ago, and you know the specific reasons why I did it. Now, you love it. You're obsessed with it. That's great. Most people hate the episode you're calling solid because it didn't focus on the title character in a final season. And I think that's a huge issue, by the way. And it makes me less motivated to watch the series or even watch the finale. They dropped the ball on Arrowverse a hell of a long time ago. They've been dropping the ball on DC live action. Now, the Shazam Fury of the Gods preview box office is the lowest and in DC history, DCEU, DC Extended Universe history, at 3.4 million. Now, when I see these numbers, I'm never sure how they measure up or count up, but that's confirmation. Shazam! Fury of the Gods may even make less money than Black Adam. They've got 2 post-credit scenes. One where Amelia Harcourt and John Economos try and recruit Shazam in the Justice Society of America. David F. Sandberg, the very director, confirms that that was supposed to be Batman and Superman recruiting him. Now, why are they trying to recruit him for the Justice Society of America and not the Justice League? What's happened to the Justice League? Who the fuck knows? It looks like this was the direction Walter Hamada was going in, including replacing Batman with an old age pensioner, Michael Keaton as Batman, great Batman in his peak. And Batgirl, Leslie Grace and Michael Keaton, 2 people were replacing Batfleck, one of the best versions of Batman we've ever had. I like most of them, but this is a great version. I think Robert Pattinson is a great version. No question about that. Scott Edwards, wasn't Aquaman delayed for visual effects? That's just all bullshit, my friend. I don't know what you're talking about. It hasn't been delayed now for visual effects. I don't know if you're talking about previous delays. That's just bullshit. All the movies that were postponed last year were postponed for other reasons. I could go into them for you if you want to believe the VFX delays, that's the reason. That's entirely up to you, Scott. I try and educate the few people who come into my channel to view my videos. You don't listen. You'd rather listen to Shields and the Grace Randolphs and the John Campiers of this world because they're popular. And because I'm not popular, you don't think I have an inside line in the industry, even though I spent 6 months in Hollywood. I spent 6 months in Hollywood to learn about how TV and movie productions are made, not to necessarily become successful. I ain't bitter, but I learned a lot about what goes on in the industry and what it takes to make stuff, which was the reason I was out there. But the point being that you can shield DC Universe before you've seen it as much as you want. But when a director admits he was hesitant to direct a Superman movie that he's written, clearly he's been pressured into writing this movie by Zaslav Safron. Clearly, he never ever wanted to write a Superman movie. That's the point. And he certainly didn't want to direct a Superman movie. Now, if you can't see the red flags in that, if you don't see the problem in that, you're not paying attention. So this is bad. And again, we think that James Gunn and Peter Safran running this is a new start, but Ray Fisher made a really good point yesterday. He said neither the leadership of Warner Brothers before or now are capable of running Warner Brothers or should be running Warner Brothers because nothing has actually changed at Warner Brothers. Scott Edwards, or was it delayed because of Amber Heard? No, my friend, it was not delayed because of Amber Heard. They didn't want to release the movies last year because they didn't know what to do with these movies. They didn't know whether they were going to keep them or release them. There was issues with the Flash movie and Ezra Miller. And because that movie restarts everything, it's a domino effect. What affects that film affects the other films. And that is the true reason they were postponed. It's up to you if you listen to me. You can go down your own directions like you all do. But at the end of the day, this is it. Right. Yusuf Ajawan. The haters are going out of their way of calling James Gunn what's that? Alaire that debunks false rumors on Twitter all the time. The haters are going out of their... No. I don't know what you're talking about, Yusuf. I'm talking about a James Gunn thread in black and white stating that he was hesitant in directing Superman Legacy, that he doesn't feel, just because he wrote a script for a Superman movie doesn't mean he feels it in his bones emotionally. And you have to feel Superman emotionally or it's not going to work. He didn't want to write this movie. He didn't want to direct this movie. He's being forced into it. And the whole thing is a mess because we thought we were getting competent people now. We thought David Zaslav's a competent person. These are very desperate people, which leads me to my next point. And if you want to keep talking about the James Gunn Superman Legacy situation, I'm happy to do so because I'm full of anxiety over it. I am worried about it now. I can't believe I missed that portion of his Fred confirming he's directing Superman Legacy. This is a problem. We have someone making a Superman movie who has no interest in making a Superman movie. Meanwhile, Zack Snyder would kill to make another Superman movie, and they won't let him do it. That, my friends, is a huge problem. So, according to reports, Tom Cruise, in a meeting with David Zaslav, conveniently, they've released the rumors of this. Tom Cruise asked David Zaslav if he could watch the Flash movie. And David Zaslav said, yeah, sure. So he set up his cinema room at home or whatever he did. They got it secure. I think they did it via online or something so he could watch it. Tom Cruise reportedly loves the Flash movie. Rung up Andy Muschietti, the director of the film, telling him it was a brilliant movie and this is exactly the kind of movie we should be getting right now. So Tom Cruise loves the Flash movie, allegedly, apparently. There's no question about it. Tom Cruise wouldn't want his name associated with a bad movie. But it's interesting that he's quite happy to be associated with a franchise that's been failing for 2 or 3 or 4 years, or that's been failing since Zack Snyder left. Maybe you would even say it was failing when Zack was even there, but at least there was solid box offices and there was a portion of the audience who loved those movies, and there was a direction and there was a vision, right? So it's interesting to me that a top actor like Tom Cruise is associating himself with DC. It's interesting. Why was he in a meeting with David Zaslav in the first place? Could it be that Tom Cruise could be in talks to play a role in a DC Universe movie or a DC Elseworlds movie? Now, this would be a bitter blow to Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios. There was even rumors that he was going to be strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I didn't buy that bullshit. Apparently, he was cut from the movie. Why would you cut Tom Cruise from a movie? Doesn't even make sense, right? He even auditioned to play Tony Stark in the first Iron Man movie, and it never happened. Thank fuck for Tom Cruise's career. So he's in talks with David Zaslav for a reason. But then again, a few months ago, Steven Spielberg was cool, having a brunch or a lunch or whatever with David Zaslav. And we all made the assumption he could be directing a Superman movie. There's no question that Steven Spielberg wouldn't touch a James Gunn written Superman movie. You heard what Ben Affleck said the other day. So, you know, James Gunn has it now to be many solid foundations, because the Gods and Monsters slate, I like it. I like the slate from the outside looking in. That doesn't mean anything. Anyone can write a list of projects. Whether those films are executed in the right way is another conversation to be had. But apparently, Tom Cruise likes the Flash movie. But it's clear that he's got some kind of association now with WB Discovery, and he's allowed his name to be involved with the Flash movie, and he's happy for them to say that he loves it. Obviously, it's his reputation. He's not going to allow his name to be bandied about in saying he loved the movie if it's a bad movie. So ultimately, we have to make the assumption that Tom Cruise ultimately loves this movie. But I have a lot of cynicism, and I'm very cynical. I'm a 50-year-old man. I've been around. I've been in Hollywood. These people are desperate. They need to make a lot of money from this movie. They're spreading rumors that this is the best DC movie since The Dark Knight. Seen a test screening of the movie, an unfinished movie, so I can't tell you if Tom Cruise is right or wrong about this. Yusuf Ajuwan, your James Gunn doesn't have any interest in making a Superman movie. He does have interest in making a Superman movie, at least. He likes comic books. Yusuf, he clearly likes comic books, but he likes the underdog characters. His strengths are in groups of characters and smaller characters. Now, I have been very, very concerned about James directing Superman Legacy, but it's clear that James has concerns as well. That's why he was very resistant to committing to directing the movie. Now, he's told us, just because you write a script, it doesn't mean you feel it in your bones emotionally. Now, as a Superman fan, that gives me a lot of concerns, Yusuf. Now, if you don't have any concerns, I'm happy for you. Good for you. Well, I'll see you at the movie theatre. Let's see what happens. I hope he makes a great Superman movie, because if he fucks it up, if Warner Brothers Discovery fuck it up, this is it. At 50 years old, I'll never be able to see a video. Sorry, let me say that again. I'll never get to see a Superman movie again. I'm 50 years old. That will be it. They'll bench him. They'll blame the character, not the creative. They'll keep on doing it. Just like they blamed Superman for the failure of Justice League. It was the way Superman was used in Justice League. Not Superman as a character's fault. Sam Jan Lai. I think it's better he directs this movie because this movie sets the universe. He needs to make it work and all people have to like it. Yes, it's his vision. Maybe it's a good thing that he's directing it. I have my concerns. Sam, at the end of the day, let me tell you my concerns. That I don't think he has the technical ability to make this film. I don't think he even likes Superman enough to make this film. So it's interesting. Now, I'm not saying he's going to make a bad movie. But when someone publicly states that they don't feel it in their bones, which I think is a ridiculous thing to say to the public anyway, considering there's people after him constantly because for firing Henry Cavill, I think it's a huge issue when someone says they don't feel it in their bones and they were resistant and the studio were trying to nail him down into agreeing to direct this movie. I was very suspicious why he confirmed he was writing the movie, but as a director and normally a guy who writes and directs his own stuff, why he wouldn't commit. And now we know why. Again, I can't believe I missed this portion of the thread. So thanks for Chris Wong Svensson and his video. If I didn't tap, I would never have noticed that. I was obviously in a rush when I read the thread. But there you go. He was hesitant. He doesn't feel it in his bones. It's clear he doesn't feel Superman in his bones. And as a devout Superman fan, and I think this is a big concern. And I am absolutely concerned not only about this, but what we're doing here. But it's clear that James Gunn and Peter Safran were the only options going forward. But again, there was a chance of Mike DeLuca running this studio, DC Studios. And he was the one who wanted to make an Iron Man movie before they made an Iron Man movie, before Disney or Marvel Studios had the rights to Iron Man, right? You know, this is the guy who produced 2 Blade movies. I think that DeLuca would have done a better job. And he was interested in continuing the Snyderverse. Yusuf Al-Jawan, Tom Cruise, Hal Jordan, maybe. I mean, let's see. They're clearly in talks. They clearly were talking about something. And it's clear that Tom Cruise apparently loves the Flash movie. That's a good thing. They're going to use that to market the movie because they know some people are going to boycott that movie because of Ezra Miller. So, yeah, he is Hal Jordan. Maybe he will be Hal Jordan. I'm not going to commit to that, but I'm not going to say that's wrong either, Yusuf. We will wait and see. But ultimately, yeah, there's a lot of things happening. Sam Dejan reviews. They're getting a younger Hal Jordan so they can keep for 10 years. Well, they may be getting an older Hal Jordan and a younger John Stewart. That makes sense, right? Tom's 60 now. He'll be 70 in 10 years. Hopefully, he lives past 60, you know. And some people don't and some people do. You can't judge that, Sam. But it could be an older, because that was David Goyer's idea. He was going to write and direct a Green Lantern Corps movie which was going to be very, very lethal weaponing. Basically, I think Hal Jordan was going to be the Danny Glover character and John Stewart was going to be the younger kind of Mel Gibson character. And that's a very interesting concept. And I think they could be trying that again. So, look, interesting stuff. But, yeah, very, very concerned. I'm happy that Tom Cruise likes the Flash movie. But I also know this could be a tactic. I know how desperate they are. They need to get the money back from this movie. It's important to understand that David Zaslav has arrived at this studio and he's probably found many, many troublesome situations like the old DC Extended Universe. But it is an interesting point. Should Mike DeLuca have been the DC Studios CEO instead of Gunn and Safran? It's interesting. There's a lot of ego with James. He talks too much. He's on the internet too much, tries to correct everyone. He argues with Snyderverse stands. I think you don't get down in the mud like that. As a creative, you've got to be above that. Get on with your job. Let your work do the talking. People don't like your work. That's fine. But he talks too much. So that's my opinion on James Gunn as well. But yeah, I'm surprised I missed that portion of the Fred when he confirmed he was directing Superman Legacy. But I always suspected there was a reason for the hesitation. Either they didn't want James to direct it, or James didn't want to direct it himself. And I'm quite sure they offered that movie, Superman Legacy, to other directors, and nobody wanted to touch somebody else's movie or the way he was going to do it. Ben Affleck has already said he wouldn't touch anything to direct in DC Universe because of the way it's being done. And what does that actually mean? Well, it's being, it's basically, James Gunn said it's not the MCU, 2.0, but basically the idea is there. Story arc going through a bunch of films, animation and gaming. I've spoke about my concerns with the gaming as well. Game developers take a long time. They don't release on schedule. And how do you have a Superman movie and you promise a game, but the game won't be there? That's another issue about what they're doing. It's all very well talking a good game about movies in theaters, streaming, gaming. It sounds good, but can you pull it off? We'll have to wait and see. Simple as that. And I've spoken about this. Superheroes are not a trend anymore. Good movies are a trend. There's no superhero fatigue. There never has been. The media and press have been trying to push that narrative ever since the trend began. There's no superhero fatigue. There's bad movie fatigue. And as I said in another video, audiences are now saying, oh no, not another one of them. And as I also said the other day, when they hear the Batman or the Joker have got a sequel, they don't say that. They say, wow, great director, giving us a definitive vision. First movie was great. Why not? People want to see artistic movies. They want to see auteurs making movies. They loved Elvis. They loved Everything Everywhere All at Once because those movies were unique. And at least Zack Snyder had a unique vision. There's not really anything unique about what James Gunn has done. He comes from a culture of Marvel Studios of doing things in a certain way. And I'm sure everyone's going to love Guardians Volume 3 and it will finish in the right way and it will do well and critics will love it, yada, yada, yada. That film needs to do well for many reasons, not just for Disney and Marvel Studios and James, but because if that film does well, then kind of people will be a bit more confident in what he's doing. He feels, for example, he said he doesn't feel Superman Legacy in his bones, but he feels Guardians of the Galaxy in his bones. He feels the Suicide Squad in his bones. He feels Peacemaker in his bones. He doesn't feel Superman and Batman in his bones. And that is my point, everyone. That is the point I'm attempting to make here. When you feel something in your bones, it works a hell of a lot better. He's not a Superman man. He's not a Batman man. He has his strengths and he has his weaknesses. I've spoken before about him being a one-trick pony in a lot of ways. And I still noticed the bit in the Suicide Squad when they're talking about Rick Flag's death with Harley, Bloodsport, and Harley are talking about it. And then they crack a joke and kill the mood, that somber mood. It's meant to lighten up the mood, but it was too quickly. And Rick Flag was a great character and he deserved more. That's another flaw within the writing and creativity of James Gunn. Ultimately, I don't have the power. I'm here as a fan, just talking and trying to explain myself. And all I can say, quite honestly, I had recorded today's video. I deleted it because I noticed this portion of the James Gunn Fred while confirming he was directing Superman Legacy, and that was a big problem to me. I've only just read that portion of the Fred about an hour ago, and it haunts me. It haunts me as a Superman fan that we have someone admitting that he doesn't feel this movie that he's written in his bones. And as I said earlier, Dick Donner felt Superman in his bones. Gotham Miller, who created Smallville, felt Superman in their bones. That's why they made it so good. And Zack Snyder feels Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman, especially Wonder Woman, in his bones. And those three characters were done the right way. They were cast the right way. The movies were great as far as I'm concerned. Snyder was never given a chance. And that is the decision that will haunt DC for all time. And the removal of Henry Cavill has put even more pressure on James Gunn by a lot of people who wanted to see at least one more Man of Steel movie with Henry Cavill. In fact, James could have done that while he was developing his next version of Superman. But they didn't do that. He won't even give Henry Cavill's Superman a farewell cameo. It's all very, very wrong, everyone, isn't it? And we'll see how well this DC universe does in a culture that is moving away from superheroes and has interests in gaming adaptations, auteur movies, and just stuff made by people with a vision. The Marvel Cinematic Universe trend is over. The mentality of people like James Gunn is over. He is a good writer-director. He's a solid writer-director. He's not Coppola. He's not Scorsese. I know a lot of Gen Z think he's the best thing that's ever lived. He's not. He's good. He's solid. He's okay. I don't have an agenda against him. I want him to make a great Superman movie as a Superman fan. But I repeat, when someone says they don't feel a Superman movie in their bones emotionally, I first of all have to be very shocked that someone said that out loud. And I'm amazed by what some of the stuff he says out loud. Far too honest. He over-elaborates when he's talking, and it's not really how a professional from Hollywood should be acting. He has accusations of a lot of other things. You know, fans are never going to forgive him. A lot of fans are never going to forgive him for his jokes about children from all those years ago. I'm happy to let it go, but then there's other accusations because of those statements, and that's problematic as well. So I'm actually stunned. I'm stunned that Zaslav and Safran saw that Gunn was hesitant about directing this movie. He probably told them he doesn't think he's capable of making it. And they've still pushed him and pressured him into agreeing into directing this movie. And I think that's a problem. I think that's a huge problem, boys and girls. And I'm worried. As a Superman fan, I'm very, very concerned because I love this character. Superman the movie was the first movie I ever saw. I've seen modern day adaptations of this character. And I have to say that Smallville and Man of Steel were very, very good. I enjoyed them. Smallville kept faith with the Superman from the comics and that we grew up with in that tone, very pure. But Snyder, Goyer, and Nolan gave us a real world kind of relatable Superman. You know, they put him in the real world. Was that a mistake? Wasn't that a mistake? I don't think it's neither wrong or right. It's not a wholeheartedly popular decision. It doesn't mean the movie's bad. It doesn't mean their version of Superman's bad. It's just something that hardcore Superman fans couldn't appreciate. I'm a hardcore Superman fan, and I did appreciate what they were doing. They gave us a contemporary Superman. They were trying to recreate the character and move away from maybe some versions of the comics and even the Christopher Reeve version. Because ultimately, we've seen Christopher Reeve's Superman. We've got his films in our DVD, Blu-ray, and 4K collections. We don't need someone to remake Superman the movie. We need someone to stand by a vision. And can James Gunn create the visuals for Superman that Zack Snyder did? No. Zack's a cinematographer. He's a director. He's an artist, right? Now, James draws all his movies. You know, I think he draws his movies before he even shoots them, like Zack does. And I think a lot of these directors do today. Yusuf Joan, he did a good job with Brightburn. I like Brightburn. Yusuf, he didn't write or direct that movie. He He just produced it. That's all he had to do with that movie. Don't forget that. And it was a piss. He was trying to take the piss. That's why he produced that movie. It's a piss take of Man of Steel, trying to say that Cavill's Superman is evil Superman. Even the fact that he's a kid in this film. And it kind of tries to make it look like when Superman's a kid in Man of Steel. So it's kind of a takedown of Man of Steel, if you ask me. But he didn't make that movie. He just produced it after he was sacked from Marvel Studios and Disney. I've seen it once. It's okay. I would never see it again. Again, Gen Z may love this movie, but I don't at the end of the day. I'm not saying I don't love it. I don't love it. I like it. It's okay, but it's nothing special. And James Gunn didn't make it, Yusuf. Now, that's not the kind of Superman movie he's going to give you. He wants to give us an inspirational Superman. Henry Cavill kept on talking about an inspirational Superman. Even Henry Cavill didn't agree in the way that Snyder did it. But Snyder had a vision. Snyder wanted Superman to earn his right to be the Superman we know and love. And nobody had the patience for it. He was literally what Snyder was doing, and excuse me, my bad throat. He was giving us a Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson take for DC, Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. That's what he was doing. He was giving us Peter Jackson, Lord of the Rings levels for DC. And this audience, modern day young audience, rejected it because it wasn't the MCU. It didn't have gags in it. It was serious. And they can't handle seriousness. They can't handle that reality. Sam Jam reviews. We didn't need 5 movies for Superman to be Superman from the comics. Sam, 1 minute you support Zack Snyder. I don't know if you're a troll or something, my friend, but you keep on contradicting yourself. So, but you can say whatever you like. This is my reaction to what you said. He was trying to tell a story. Now, I know your generation find like dialogue where there's no explosions and stuff, and actually telling a story, a slow, built-up story where a character has to earn the right to become the person, because they were making a real life Superman with realism in him. That's the point. That's what they were trying to do it. That's what they were trying to do. So in real life, if an alien arrives with all those powers, people are not going to trust him. That's what they were doing. John, the Super Mario Bros. Is rumored to make 85 to 90 million in the first 5 days opening weekend. Your thoughts? It's actually projected to make over 100 million in its opening domestic weekend. John, this is huge. Gaming movies are the new trend. We've seen it with The Last of Us, Sonic the Hedgehog 1 and 2, and Mario looks amazing. I'm excited about Mario. I own a Super NES. I love Mario Kart. I'd love to see a Mario Kart movie as the next movie. I think that would be a great thing to do. This is going to be a huge success. Could we see a rare $1 billion animated movie? So my thoughts are those, John. Sam Dejan reviews. I don't agree with what he did with Superman. He could have been a hopeful Superman from the start. Wasn't he a hopeful Superman from the start? Didn't he save people's lives? Didn't he choose humanity over the Kryptonians? Isn't that hopeful? It's just different to what we saw when we were growing up. And that was okay. As I say, he was giving us Lord of the Rings levels DC. And that was special. Special. And because of impatience and because of reactive behavior, because of the MCU and everyone wanted a carboned and packaged franchise. And now nobody wants that anymore. People are fed up of the MCU, fed up of that. But that's what James Gunn's going to give us now. Let's see what it is. Let's see if it works. I hope it does. I have my doubts. I think it's too little too late for an interconnected DC franchise. I think movies like the Batman 2 and Joker Folia do will make more money than James Gunn's DC Universe movies. James Gunn has already said the quality levels in DC Elseworlds will be higher than the quality levels in DC Universe. Another crazy thing that he said, but he's actually speaking the truth. So, And Sam, you're more than entitled not to agree with what Snyder did. Some people agree with it, some people love it, some people don't. But unless you can taste something when it's finished, if someone makes a dish, if someone makes a plate of food, but it isn't finished because you switched the power off, it's not fair to judge them on it. Snyder wasn't allowed to give us his definitive 5-movie arc. Even the Snyder Cut isn't the version he was actually going to give us, right? That's the version he tried to dumb down because the studio were pressuring him. So we'll never even see his first Justice League movie that he meant us to see. But that's as close. And what a brilliant movie. One of the best movies I've ever seen. Yusuf Ojuwan, I think Superman should have put General Zod in the Phantom Zone. He doesn't need to kill anyone to know that killing is wrong. Right. I've said this before. That would have, if he did that, then Man of Steel makes $1 billion because there's nothing wrong with Man of Steel. Man of Steel is a great movie. And basically, the killing of Zod, Superman killing Zod, divided audiences and people didn't go back to watch it because that moment angered them because they believe Superman shouldn't kill at all. Now, it didn't trigger me at all at the time. I thought it was compelling. I sat in the movie theater the first time and the air was sucked out. Everyone went silent. It was a shocking moment. But I can understand why people didn't like that. But I just think they were trying to be edgy. Sandra Reviews, it's not too late for a DC cinematic universe. We just wanted good DC movies. But will we get good DC movies? John, what do you think will make more money, the Mario movie or Mission Impossible? You do ask me some difficult questions, and I appreciate that. I like that. This is interesting. I would imagine, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not an expert. I'm not a box office analyst. But from what I'm seeing, that Tom Cruise is very popular now. And the Mission Impossible films have always made money, John. I think that Mario will break records and do very, very well. At least I hope it does anyway. And I think Mission Impossible, this is the first part of a two-parter. These could be the final 2 Mission movies ever made as well, or starring Tom Cruise. We'll have to wait and see. I think that guy wants to go as long as possible. The guy's a fucking icon. I think that Mission Impossible will make over $1 billion. And I think that Mario will probably reach up to about $800 and $850 million, which is a huge win for our animated movie. And they'd be happy with that. Maybe both of them will make $1 billion. But both films, John, are going to be 2 of the films of this year. Tom Cruise very rarely makes bad movies. Don't bring up The Mummy. Mummy isn't that bad, actually. He just seemed like a Mission Impossible movie rather than a Mummy movie, if you ask me, and that's just not what people wanted. But yeah, both movies for me, John, will make a lot of money. They may make similar money. I think it's going to be very, very similar to the, when you compare the box office for Minions, Rise of Gru, that did really, really well, and Top Gun Maverick. Now, the Rise of Gru made nowhere near the money Top Gun Maverick went, but for an animated movie, it did really, really well because Illuminations are great. Surprise, surprise, it's another year, it's another Illuminations, movie. These guys, I've spoken to these guys before who make this stuff. They're so talented. And unlike James Gunn and Superman, they do feel this stuff in their bones. They are passionate about this stuff. And these people are artists. I love the guys and girls at Illuminations. Got a lot of time for them, John. And I think they've pulled off this movie from what I can see from the trailers. Trailers, obviously, you can have great trailers and it's crap, but that looks like a really good film. All the fans are excited. I can't wait to see the reactions. And I think the hate for Chris Pratt playing Mario has also gone down. The accent sounds very, very strong. They should have got an Italian actor to do it. That's true. They didn't. Who knows what will happen with the second movie? Maybe Chris will be replaced. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I don't hate Chris Pratt. I think Chris Pratt's a brilliant guy. And it seems like he's done a good job. So, yes, that's what I think about that, John. And I think that like the Mario, like the Nintendo Cinematic Universe and, the Last of Us universe and, the Sonic, the Sega Cinematic Universe are in a better condition than the comic book universes because at the end of the day, the MCU are in a lot of trouble. Disney are in a lot of trouble. If you knew what was going on behind the scenes right now and the panic at Disney, you would be, I think a lot of you would be shocked, because I think a lot of you expect Marvel to continue and continue and continue. And there's big problems over there because people have had enough of this stuff. They're bored. They're bored of the pre-packaged kind of IP now. They're bored. And what do you do if you're Disney? You've got the MCU there. You've invested millions of dollars into it. You have to keep it going. But if the audience isn't interested in whatever you do, I think the last act of the comic book trend to try and save it will be a Marvel and DC crossover. We know that the Avengers is mentioned in Shazam! Fury of the Gods as well. And even the Authority is mentioned in that film, jokingly. So I think the last desperate act of WB Discovery and Disney will be to do a crossover, a DC Marvel crossover. And that could be the last thing we ever see. Because I think whoever does it, whether it's James Gunn or, Feige, or they're both working together and all of that, it's a desperate move. When people are desperate, they make desperate decisions. And, that's what I think about that. I think the trend of comic book movies is over. And the only ones that will have any interest from the audience are the ones directed by people like Matt Reeves and Todd Phillips. And you're going to see Rebel Moon. You're not going to know how successful Rebel Moon is because it's going to be on a streaming platform. That is one of the most anticipated movies of this year, because people like Zack Snyder, Todd Phillips, and Matt Reeves, their art has an identity. And that's the thing. The Marvel Cinematic Universe isn't about art. And last year really schooled that model. Sanders and Hughes, I want them to do a Spider-Man versus Superman. There was a comic book on it. I'm sure you do. And I'm sure they'd like to make it. It would be very difficult. I'd like to see that done well, but I don't think the people who would be involved in that would do it well. And it'd just be a desperate move to try and make money. Yusuf Al-Jawan. Henry Cavill wanted Superman to be hopeful from the start. Snyder didn't allow it. Yeah, Henry Cavill is an actor. He's there to read the lines, right, and do his job. Zack Snyder, and it wasn't actually, Man of Steel wasn't led by Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder merely directed that movie. That film is produced by Christopher Nolan's production company, is written by Christopher Nolan and David S. Goyer. It was not Zack's idea to have Superman break Zod's neck. That was David Goyer's. Even Christopher Nolan questioned that decision. So you need to get your facts straight. Zack Snyder didn't decide to have Superman kill. And in fact, in BVS, Superman doesn't kill. In the Snyder Cut, he may be trying to kill Steppenwolf, but he doesn't kill people. So that was a David Goyer decision. But everyone loves to blame Zack for everything. And there's the thing. He was just the director of Man of Steel. BVS was his baby. Yes, for sure. So you don't like Batman branding people, but that was the idea. Batman was in a dark place. And the whole idea of BVS is Batman being inspired by Superman's sacrifice. And that's the place that Batman is at the end. Any experienced storyteller will tell you, don't end your story how you started it. Your character must go on a journey. Batman in BVS goes on this formidable journey, and it works. It certainly works for me. Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice is one hell of a special movie. And Zack Snyder should be getting royalties for the first Wonder Woman movie and for Captain America Civil War, considering Civil War ripped off Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice. So, yes, Yusuf, Henry Cavill wanted a certain type of Superman, but he wasn't in charge. Henry Cavill isn't in charge. So, there you go. So, that, Zack Snyder's Superman is a contemporary Superman in a real world. They're trying to tell a real world story. You don't have to agree with that direction. You don't have to like that direction, but it was very unique and very special. And the truth of the matter is, since Zack Snyder left the DCEU, things have gotten worse and worse. $1 billion movie in the DC Extended Universe. So let's look at the DCEU since Zack Snyder left. So he left just before they finished shooting the third act of the first Wonder Woman movie, and the CGI in that battle at the end, you can tell Zack and his VFX team were no longer around anymore. The stuff that Zack did direct, like No Man's Land, was peak CBM, and it was amazing. I don't mind the first Suicide Squad movie, definitely better than Birds of Prey. The Wonder Woman movie's great. I like Aquaman. I like Shazam. And then the quality goes down, and every movie since Shazam has flopped. Birds of Prey, The Suicide Squad, Black Adam, Wonder Woman 84 was out during the peak of the pandemic, but was a terrible movie. You know, all these movies, Shazam Fury of the Gods is going to fail as well in the box office. We'll see what the Flash movie does. Who knows what Blue Beetle will do? That's an interesting movie. We haven't even seen a trailer for that movie yet. Think about that for a minute as well. Lots of problems. Yusuf Al-Jawan, Snyder does too much slow-mo. It's stylistic, artistic filmmaking. And I think your generation isn't used to stylized filmmaking. You like the dull, way of making films. You just want to see the ordinary way of making films. And Zack Snyder is an artist. You don't have to like that. There's nothing wrong with you because you don't like that and your generation are not used to it. I like it. I think everything he does, that nightmare sequence in BVS is still amazing for me. Even the first time I saw it and it was out of context, and it was obvious to me it was some kind of flash forward or something, and it was going to be explained in his other two Justice League movies that people didn't give him the fucking opportunity to make. But I love Zack Snyder's style of directing. He never lets me down. A Zack Snyder movie has never let me down. You know what you're going to get from him. It's going to be artistic. It's going to be stylized. The story's going to be compelling. His composers are absolutely fantastic. Junkie XL is doing Rebel Moon. I'm so hyped for Rebel Moon. Zack Snyder, in my opinion, is the real deal, and he'll never be done with DC. Never. And that's another thing James Gunn has done as well. He said Ben Affleck was interested in directing a DC movie. Ben Affleck says, I'll never direct one of your movies publicly in an interview, right? Think about that for a minute. He says Henry Cavill is going to play another character in DC. Who wants Henry to play somebody else, right? We want him to play Superman, right? We'll see. Is that another piece of BS? Why did he say Ben Affleck was interested in directing a DC movie if he's saying he wouldn't do it never in a month of Sundays? These are problematic situations. We thought James Gunn being involved would at least have a definitive vision and there wouldn't be these problems. But James Gunn just seems to be digging a hole deeper and deeper. And there's a lot of fans, ordinary people, peasants, who are exposing him. Non-industry folk exposing. And he's exposing himself because he talks too much. But ultimately, James Gunn will be judged on what he puts on the screen. So let's see what he puts in the screen. This is going to be a very interesting situation. It wouldn't even surprise me if he changed his mind about directing Superman Legacy. I don't think that situation has had its climax yet either. So yeah, I had to start the video off talking about the part of the thread that James Gunn talks about not feeling Superman Legacy in his bones. I think it's very problematic. And I'm concerned about Superman Legacy, and I'm concerned about this new universe. It's all been a bit of a mess, hasn't it, really, from day one, since 2013. And it's just got worse and worse and worse. And we are leaving the trend of superheroes now. Can they pull it off? Will they pull it off? We will see. James Gunn has to be judged on what he makes, and I will wait to judge him. But it doesn't stop me being concerned and seeing red flags all over the place. The fact that Christina Hodgson is part of his writing team at DC Studios. The fact that there doesn't seem to be a lot of people being employed at DC Studios, it all seems a bit of a facade. So I do have my concerns. No question, James Gunn is a competent writer-director. I don't think he's anything more than that. I know a lot of cool kids think he's the bee's knees, and that's okay. But I think he's a one-trick pony who only knows one way of making movies. We will see if he can pull Superman Legacy off. We will see if he can create a great interconnected universe. It's a very interesting situation. But make no mistake, Warner Brothers Discovery are a very desperate company. They're $3 billion in debt. And having this Tom Cruise thing come out that he loved the Flash movie, it actually oozes of desperation, if you ask me. This has been Saturday's edition of the DC Universe Daily with me, Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss this beautiful perfection. And I'll see you again in the next video. Until I see you again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.